there's a live arrest warrant out on you now, right? Yeah. You can't go to the U.S. now.
I'm on the Interpol red list.
The biggest military computer hack in all time.
We talked about the case of computer hacker Gary McKinnon, on which the Prime Minister has expressed very clear views.
Well, on Mr. McKinnon, we have proceeded through all the processes required under our extradition agreements.
I was just a guy, normal guy, interested in UFOs, happened to have some IT skills, nothing genius level.
You hacked into the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Department of Defense, and NASA.
They wanted to put you in prison for 60 years, so...
Yeah, 70.
For 70 years.
And I bought potassium chloride. I was just going to swallow it and have a heart attack and die.
Oh my God.
Mr. McKinnon is accused of serious crimes.
The reason that you are here today on this show is because what you found.
He found, he says, photographic proof of alien spacecraft and the names and ranks of something he called non-terrestrial officers.
I was in my dressing gown up till like 4 a.m, smoking weed, drinking beer. Ride of my life, really. The first one I looked at was the one where I saw the picture. And so I double-clicked this. But it was very, very slow. I was on a 56K dial-up. And I was just thinking, my God, this is my eureka moment. Then there's like slowly a hemisphere started appearing. I'm thinking, fuck, that's a planet. What the hell? And then suddenly there's a big, straight kind of silvery line. A cigar-shaped object. I see the mouse move and someone else is at the computer themselves. They right-clicked, disconnect, and boom. And that was it. I was cut out.
What do you think photographed it?
Very good question. This spreadsheet was titled Non-Terrestrial Officers. So, not on the Earth. And that was incredible. I had one very strange experience that I can't explain to this day. I was suddenly woken up by a really sharp pain. Then immediately I just went, oh. In my left heel, there were 2 perfectly circular holes.
Whoa. Weird.
Explain what's going on quickly.
I can't turn my phone off. You can see my finger is on the power button and both. This is like a hard reset.
That's never happened before?
Absolutely, it's never happened before.
But you're with Gary McKinnon.
Ignition sequence start.
How is this possible? Nothing too unusual about that.
Their existence cannot longer be denied.
Before we dive into the incredible story of Gary McKinnon, I want to shine a light on one thing his story reminds you of instantly: online privacy. Gary is a brilliant self-taught hacker who pulled off what the Pentagon called the biggest military computer hack of all time, all from a bedroom in London. In this interview, Gary goes into extreme detail about what he found in some of the world's most sensitive files, and I still can't wrap my head around what you're about to hear. After hearing what he found, you might think he hit the ultimate UFO disclosure jackpot. However, the moment he went online, a digital trail started forming. Think about the moments most of us could get exposed. It won't look like Gary's story, where he broke into sensitive government systems, saw something truly unbelievable floating in space, and then had his access cut off mid-session. For most of us, our risk exposure is usually much simpler, like joining hotel Wi-Fi, airport Wi-Fi, or even your office network. Going incognito doesn't hide your browser from the Wi-Fi owner, and your internet service provider can just log what you do online. That's why I use ExpressVPN. It encrypts and reroutes my traffic through secure servers and masks my IP. I literally turn it on before doing sensitive research for the show, like looking into whether mid-century scientist Thomas Townsend Brown cracked anti-gravity in the 1950s. That's exactly when I want my browsing to stay private. So if you're like me and you like going down crazy rabbit holes, make sure your research isn't exposed on whatever Wi-Fi you're on. Thanks to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, you can now get up to 4 extra months of your ExpressVPN service by clicking the link in the description below at expressvpn.com/American Alchemy. That's expressvpn.com/American Alchemy to get the privacy you deserve. Thanks again to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's historic episode, because if Gary's story teaches us anything, it's that your online privacy matters. Legend has it that in 1943, the Navy tried to teleport a ship in what's now known as the Philadelphia experiment, and it kind of worked. It disappeared, reappeared, and then half the crew got atomically fused into the ship's walls. Others just vanished. No one was where they were supposed to be. Talk about a breakdown in communication. And you know who was leading the whole project? My favorite, the mid-century anti-gravity inventor, Thomas Townsend Brown, who literally had a nervous breakdown that year due to the very poor communication among the team members. You know what that sounds like? Your team, before you had Quo. This year, upgrade your system to a workspace that keeps your team from shattering across dimensions. If you've ever tried to schedule a meeting across 5 time zones and 6 platforms, you know the absolute horror of losing people to the ether. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. It's a single streamlined command center for calls, notes, transcripts, chats, even AI summaries. An all-in-one shared reality, yours. No vanishing, no fusing into calendars, just your team, fully entangled and synced across time zones, timelines, even caffeine levels. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/Jesse. That's QUO.com/Jesse. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Now back to the show. This is such an honor. I am here with, he's been at the top of my list of people I've wanted to interview for years now. And I'm so lucky to have this opportunity through James Fox, the great documentarian, Gary McKinnon.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I love your channel. I've been a long-term subscriber. So yeah, I really like a lot of the interviews you do, and I'm glad to be here too.
Let's just go back to the early 2000s. Tell me the year and the day, and tell me about your life at the time, and then I want to get into the actual event.
Okay, I can't remember the day, but the year was 2000, early 2000, and my life pre to that, I'd always had a deep interest in UFOs, mainly from my stepdad. He used to live in Falkirk, which is near Bonnybridge, which is in Scotland. And it's like a Scottish UFO hotspot. Many, many sightings, almost like a tourist attraction. People go there to see UFOs. And I had one sighting myself when I was about 12. And I was looking out of my bedroom window, and I saw this kind of reddish-orange glowing light, and it was moving in an arc from there to the horizon. And it was, but it was like Brownian motion. It wasn't a straight line. It was like wiggling around, and I just thought, what on earth is that? And I was also a member of BUFORA at the time, the British UFO Research Association. I was hooked from an early age. And so I guess it only made sense that eventually I'd try and do something to further my own interest and find out more. But unfortunately, it involved breaking the law. So, sorry, Mum.
So you already have an interest in UFOs. Had you seen a UFO or
just that one sighting?
Just that one sighting. Okay.
But I had my stepdad's stories. He'd seen them. His brother, my step uncle, had seen them.
Yeah. And so you have this personal interest, and then do you have like a hacking background, or like, do you have any sort of like cyber background? Are you really good with computers?
No hacking background. I used it. I was good with computers.
Mm-hmm.
I started off on an Atari games console in like 78, 79. And then eventually got the Atari computer, learned to program in BASIC at first, and then machine code, assembler language. Moved up from that. And then eventually got jobs in computing, very low-level jobs to start off with, network installation, Windows configuration. Then did a computer science degree, which I eventually failed because I spent too much time in the student bar. But yeah, so I eventually ended up contracting, but at banks, quite high-level stuff, but doing very basic sort of networking stuff.
Mm.
So I had a good background in networking, especially Windows, knew how they communicated, and some Linux, stroke Unix, Solaris, stuff like that. So the internet came to Britain in 95, I think I first had the internet. And the first thing I searched for was UFOs. And it was very popular, loads of websites, loads of information. And fast forward about 5 or 6 years, I read the Disclosure Project book, Stephen Greer and his team.
Mm-hmm.
And they told you installations, locations. And I thought, I've got to have a look at this. I wanted it from the horse's mouth. I didn't want to just believe, I wanted to know. And so I thought I could use my basic networking skills just to do a scan, a light scan on American military networks, which is mad now. but back then it was just kind of like a playful idea. And I wrote a Perl script. Perl is programming, extraction, reporting language, just a scripting language. And I could run that across thousands of machines in minutes and find blank passwords or passwords that were either blank or password, admin, a basic list. And when you do like wide-scale phishing like that, you do, some fish bite. And that was my basic method to getting entrance to these places.
And so some of these extremely sensitive American military sites had blank passwords.
Big time.
That's crazy. I mean, although that seems beyond belief, it also makes sense. Like the government's way more incompetent than often, especially people in UFO world give them credit for, because we assume they have workable reverse engineered crafts that they know how to use at will or whatever. So like you would, of course, would have passwords set up. But 2000 is early internet. We were still worried about Y2K. know? So like we didn't really understand how a lot of this stuff worked. It was this big experiment. And so, wow. So that sort of phishing thing came up with some fish.
Yeah.
And
as you said, the government really isn't tailored for this, especially the military. They didn't then employ specialized IT workers. They trained up existing military employees in the basic techniques to run a network. So there weren't advanced security aware guys running government networks or military networks.
And so while you're doing this, are you just like sitting in an apartment or something?
It's a bit embarrassing. My girlfriend and I at the time, we were living in her auntie's house on the ground floor. And I was in my dressing gown up to like 4 a.m, smoking weed, drinking beer, just like ride of my life, really, for a young-ish guy. I think I was 36 at the time. So yeah,
I don't think that's embarrassing for you. I think it's embarrassing for the sites you hacked into. Okay, so you're you're getting a little late night buzz, and you're at your girlfriend's aunt's house. And you're just like, I want to know for myself what's going on in UFO world. You do this blank password search. You actually come up with some results as far as sites that you can get into.
Yeah.
What do you look at first?
Well, the first thing I had to do was test my method.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that on British sites. We're currently in Cambridge, home of the famous university. I had Cambridge's FTP server, file transfer protocol server, and Oxford as well, and a couple of polytechnics at the time, which are now universities. And I realized the technique worked. If you cast far enough, a wide net, something's going to come in. And then I thought, okay, let's go for the locations. And my list of locations all came from the Disclosure Project book. And also there was I forget the title of it. There was like a hackers network document going around of a list of potential UFO secrecy sites. And I took some of the names from there. But all that told you was the network names or the particular Department of Defense, like sub-department that owned that network. So I used a site at the time which was called Nihi's IP Index. And this guy had done some work. He'd used like domain search tools and built a huge list of who owns what subnets. So I could just grab a block, plug it into my script, and scan like 250,000 computers in 8 minutes. Typically 5% would respond. And then from that 5%, a further 5% would have blank passwords.
Okay, got it. So you do this like narrowing process and you end up with, what is it, like 97 sites that you can get into or something like that?
Yeah, that was the end result.
Which is a lot of sites.
Yeah.
And what do the sites include as far as acronyms that people would be familiar with or program names people would be familiar with?
Okay, so NSA, I got into Fort Meade. DISA, Defense Information Systems Agency. DoD networks, basic Army networks, Navy networks, USAF, US Air Force networks.
Okay, wow. So yeah, those are some pretty intense organizations that at the very least we know hold the keys to, all sorts of, military technology secrets that confer a tactical advantage to the US, if not some of these deeper, more interesting mysteries that, you and I share an interest in. So what do you do next as far as your search and what do you find?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm one guy. I've got potentially thousands of IPs to search the individual computers. And once you find a blank password, and these are Windows networks, you need to become the administrator, which is like, the highest local account. And eventually the domain administrator, which controls the entire network. So once I was on one PC on a network, I then attack the domain server and get that password. And that's through dictionary attacks, password cracking. I actually used a tool called Loftcrack. I don't know if that's still around. And once I'd done that, it's a huge job for one person, huge job. So I found a program called LandSearch. This is all commercially off-the-shelf available software. And what LandSearch enabled me to do was to type in a search term, and it would search every file and folder on all the local PCs that I had control of, which could be, I think the largest I did was 5,000 at one time, which took hours, it was a whole night. So yeah, that's how that was my system for making it doable for one person. And also it depends on your search terms. These files aren't going to be called UFO secrets. So I had to look for things like, secret, top secret, just anything and PDF documents were particularly helpful. A lot of stuff was in PDF back then. And the redacting they did on PDFs back then was not fully redacted. You could unredact it once you downloaded the file to your own PC. So it was a huge network-wide document search and just grabbing what I could, spending hours getting it, and then spending hours reading it and trawling through it.
When you're spending hours reading it, is this like you backed this stuff up on a hard drive or is it just on your PC?
Yeah, download it to my PC.
Okay, so it's just on your PC.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you're going through all this stuff. Were there any other things you saw that were interesting outside of, we'll get to the crazy kind of UFO related stuff that you found. Was there anything else that you saw while searching through these documents?
I was looking for free energy as well. I never found anything to do with that. One thing I have to say, I never found anything to do with Solar Warden. Solar Warden is a huge rumor that was started by an anonymous poster on the above top secret forum. So there's no evidence for Solar Warden. And I have nothing to do with it. Never heard of it, apart from rumors pertaining to myself.
Yeah, for the audience, Solar Warden has become associated with these sort of secret space program Gaia, people like Corey Goode, that say that we have like a terrestrial, we have like humans like in like deep space right now, and they engage in these like 20 years and back missions or whatever. And there's like a documentary on it. And it's the worst documentary I think I've ever seen.
I bet it is. I totally believe in a secret space program, but I don't believe Corey Goode.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like Pizzagate and Epstein. The best way to debunk the truth or to pre-immunize the population from ever actually looking into the truth is to kind of, inoculate them, send out stuff that is directly adjacent to the truth, and then ensure that gets debunked because it's so prima facie ridiculous.
Yeah, standard intel technique.
Yeah, so so the fact that there's some sort of standard intel techniques. So the fact that a blog, an anonymous blog post, and then you have all these people kind of flooding the zone with secret space program stuff, makes me think that there might actually be something next to that might be true.
Yeah.
That dovetails with what you did find. Anything else that you found that was interesting before the crazy stuff?
Nothing to do with ET or anything like that, but it's very interesting what on one site I found the jailers file. Every military base has a jailer. And it's just crazy. You've got guys taking LSD that work on submarines.
Really?
So lots of interesting human stories.
Where they're taking LSD that work on submarines.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, because they're soldiers, basically. And they're bored. They're like, I'm a submarine, I'm tripping now. And they're dealing drugs. They've got Hell's Angels gangs bringing in the drugs. And so that was interesting for a human story. It's nothing to do with what we're here to discuss today, but it's entertaining.
Okay, that's fascinating. I thought for a second you were talking about like MK Ultra mind control, like taking LSD at the bottom of submarines and testing consciousness. So just recreational, spice it up down there. Interesting.
Make the 9 to 5 less boring.
Yeah, and so you're looking for UFOs, you're looking for free energy. Any other kind of terms that are on your mind in going into this search?
No, that was my main focus. And with UFOs, it was particularly the propulsion. What I was interested in was the energy and the propulsion. Aliens didn't excite me so much because I'm sure they exist because it's a huge universe. But I wanted something that could that we could use, as people. And I was convinced that it was secret technology, but they knew something about the populace at large wasn't allowed to have access to.
Yeah, well, I think you were onto something maybe, but
I mean, in Britain at the time, we had old age pensioners couldn't pay their fuel bills, and energy was a really sad story for a lot of people. So to have something that was free, it was just too juicy not to have a go at finding.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hugely disruptive to establishment institutions. If our energy prices dropped from, $50 per kilowatt hour to like 50 cents per kilowatt hour, that would be hugely disruptive. It just would.
I think it's a control mechanism, isn't it? Energy as well. Just like water is starting to be, food has been for a while.
Yeah, anything that's scarce and can be accrued at the top, I think, is totally a control mechanism. And anybody who doesn't think that, having access to a critical threshold of oil has not determined American foreign policy over the last 70 years is nuts. I mean, you see it with Maduro in Venezuela, and then, worries about what's going on in Iran vis-a-vis that. And so, and it's all, very, very, obviously interconnected. I mean, Desert Storm in the early 90s was basically pulled off because Saddam Hussein, in overtaking Kuwait, controlled a fifth of the world's oil supply. And that was just unacceptable.
Yeah. And one thing about Venezuela is it wasn't just America's domestic supply. It was what foreign powers could get. China was about to do a deal with Venezuela.
That's right.
I think it would only amount to like 1 or 2% of China's imports, but it's still something.
Yeah, still something. They're sitting on a lot of oil there. And you see this, these crazy sort of game theory dynamics vis-a-vis China taking place with Greenland and other places. So it all cuts to these. And if you look at why the U.S. had to back down off this recent, trade agreement deal with China and kind of concede some things, it was due to rare earth refinement being basically a monopoly in China. And so, these things are very real things geopolitically. And so I agree with you. I think it's very interesting if there's any sort of novel exotic physics that's stuck in a compartment in the government, I'd like to know as well.
Yeah.
And I even think there are probably interesting ways to use it geopolitically. If you have it where it's it's some sort of carrot for okay, maybe you don't give it to gross dictators or whatever, but it's a way to incentivize reform, or I don't know, but just keeping it to yourself, that seems wrong, maybe.
Yeah. But you're right. It's a real hard line to walk, isn't it? How do you have that public for you, but not public for other countries? Because you have spies and.
Totally. And there are dual use implications for a lot of things. So a good example would be, controlled fusion or whatever would, is the really positive, use of nuclear fusion, which would allow for, sort of free energy if you have over unity. But then, fusion also creates the hydrogen bomb, right? And so like you never know. Like if you had some free energy device that you were putting in a compartment or something, if that also allowed a kid in his bedroom to blow up the world, like you do have to like do some calculations. There's this guy Ashton Forbes online who, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
the airplane
he talks about MH370, these like orbs wrapping around the plane, and then it zaps it, and he's like sure that there's like free energy being held by.
To me, the most fascinating thing about that was where's the provenance for that video?
Yeah,
it's never been shown.
It's never been. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah. But okay, so what do you find next?
So there was a special witness for Stephen Greer's disclosure project called Donna Hare. And she said that when she worked, she was pretty hard. She was a NASA launch photographic specialist. I think she had secret clearance because she'd get, very close-up photos of all the mechanics and engineering and stuff for launches and the launch platform under the launch platform. And she said that she worked in Building 8 of Johnson Space Center, JSC. And that her colleague who worked across the corridor, and this is all something he shouldn't have done, because they chatted, had lunch together or whatever. And one day he just beckoned her across the corridor and said, come and take a look at this. And this is the days of analog photography. And so he's got, big like contact sheets and slides, and they used to be developed under red light and silver nitrate. And he said, what do you think this is? And there was a huge white disc on this satellite photo of the Earth. And she, being a photographic expert herself, said, oh, it's just a blob in the emulsion, the old chemical of the sheets.
And then he's grinning and he says, dots on the emulsion don't leave round shadows on the ground. And there was a round shadow at the right angle, at the correct angle, the sun shining on the trees. I saw pine trees. I didn't see a coastline. I don't know where this was. But I looked at him and I was pretty startled because I'd worked out there several years and never seen anything like this, never heard of anything like this. And I said, is this a UFO? And he's smiling at me and he says, I can't tell you that. So I said, what are you going to do with this information? And he said, well, we always have to airbrush them out before we sell them to the public.
Because they sell on the imagery to like colleges, universities, Earth shots and magnificent scenes from space. So yeah, his job was to blot this stuff out and make sure it wouldn't get seen. And they didn't have Photoshop then, so I'm not sure. I think, the airbrush term literally comes from a physical airbrush on the emulsion where they just blur things. And you see lots of examples on this of like lunar photography from Clementine mission, the Lunar Orbiter, the LRO, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. So I read this story, absolutely fascinated. Here was this highly qualified woman. She'd worked for a long time, NASA, and I think the Air Force previously to that. And
did she say disc? She said flying saucer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She said, so that shape, the circular shape.
Yeah, and the shadow.
Okay. Wow.
And I was already in Johnson Space Center at the time. So I thought, Building 8. Okay, I wonder if that's still running, because she worked there in, I think, the late 80s or the early 90s.
So you're in the Johnson Space Center files on your PC.
Yeah,
you're going
I was
through
already
them.
there when I read that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought, I've got to have a look.
Yeah.
I've got to have a look. And I thought, how the hell do I find Building 8? But luckily, Windows has, you can do network commands in a console rather than a GUI with a mouse. And you can type it like netstat, network status, tells you all the people connected to the machine. And there's other commands whereby NASA are great auditors of their system. So they have these special commands for auditing where you see the machine, the PC, the number, the serial number, the date when it was last maintained, all stuff like that, and the building it's in. So I ran those commands. That produced a list, and I stripped out, I think it was about 1,500 machines, or maybe 150 machines. But once I stripped out the Building 8 machines, there was only like a dozen, maybe. And I ran the blank password script on them And I think about half of them were accessible. And the first one I looked at was the one where I saw the picture. And it was strange. It was, I did a lot of network support before that as well. And most users' desktops are covered in stuff, shortcuts, emails, like electronic post-it notes. And these were very bare desktops. All they had was like 2 folders, raw and process, and maybe a couple of other shortcuts. And so I thought, I've got to look at this. It's got to be images. It's where she said it was. It looks like images. It says raw. It says processed. And I double-clicked into the folders, and it's a proprietary NASA image format that I can't run on my desktop. Not a JPEG, not a PNG. So what I had to do was basically, there was what was it called? There was I basically had to run NASA's software. I had to double click it on the desktop because my hacking method, although I'd get in there with a blank password, which was CLI, command line, once I was in there, I was using remotely anywhere. I think it still exists. It's like PC Anywhere. It's like you're sitting at the desktop. You can see the screen on your screen. And so I double clicked this, but it was very, very slow. I was on a 56K dial-up, which was, to give some idea of the speed, it was, if you download an MP3 music file now, you've got it in a few seconds. Then it was 5 minutes per megabyte. And a song might be 3 megabytes. And 15 minutes for one song. No one would even accept that now. So I double-clicked this. It was taking ages. So I cancelled it. I turned down my remote control thing into like 8-bit color, then 4-bit color. Eventually, I think 4-bit color or 2-bit color. It was basically 4 or 5 different colors. So it was a shitty image. And, but it came on the screen, like, almost line by line. I think it was a few lines at a time. So it was coming in blocks. And I'm looking, and there's like blackness. Then there's like slowly a hemisphere started appearing. And I'm thinking, fuck, that's a planet. What the hell? This could be what she said. Then the hemisphere comes into view, and it's very blocky, but it's kind of blue and white. So I'm thinking, well, it must be Earth. And then suddenly there's a big, straight kind of silvery line. And then it's coming down. Then that's, I guess, what they now call a Tic-Tac, but it was what we used to call cigar-shaped object. And this thing was, admittedly, it's low resolution. It's coming down slowly, but this thing looked very kind of smooth on the outside. There was no lines where there would be like plates fixed or screws and bolts and stuff. And I was just thinking, my God, this is my eureka moment. Confirmed Donna Hare's story. Not that Donna Hare's story needs confirming. And I got the whole ship, in view. And then it started to go below that, where I would see the rest of the sphere of the Earth. I assume it was the Earth. And it was just amazing. The only possibly man-made thing that was there was like geodesic domes, like radar stations. One on top, below, and both sides. And I thought, well, that's strange. It's kind of man-made looking, but not man-made looking. And then I've got graphical remote control. I see the mouse move. Someone else is at the computer themselves, and they're moving the mouse. They right-clicked on the local area network icon, right next to your clock on the bottom right of your Windows taskbar. Disconnect, and boom. And that was it. Gone. I was cut out. And I'm sitting there like waiting.
Oh my God.
Bated breath for my eureka moment. Come on.
Oh my God. Anything else on the cigar? So smooth, no, it doesn't seem like rivets or seams. It's hovering above the Earth. Do you notice anything else?
No. Just like a very smooth cylinder, the geodesic domes. And
so the little dome on top, dome on bottom.
Yeah, and at either end. Yeah.
And on either end as well.
That could just be the kind of cigar tube. Like the closure of the cylinder.
Sure.
I suppose. Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So interesting. And did you ever speak with, yourself or through intermediaries with Donna Hare?
Oh, yeah.
And did she say, that's the disc that I saw? And I just, because I think of disc with her and then cigar, Tic-Tac with you.
Yeah, she saw that one photo of disc, but she also spoke to...
Okay, so these are probably different images. You're just confirming that the same building probably has a whole lot of images that they're sitting on.
Yeah, even though it might be 10 or 20 years later, apparently this is still the place where there's images.
Yeah.
UFOs or exotic craft, and they're being airbrushed out.
It is proof that at least, it's really interesting that you have a whistleblower come out with nobody has any evidence for her claims at this point. And she says, this is where we processed the images. I was shown this image, Building 8, Johnson Space Center. You independently, halfway across the world, hack into Johnson Space Center, look at Building 8, and then one of the first things that pops up on your screen is an image of a UFO hovering above the Earth, which is clearly not the exact same UFO, but it's,
It's definitely exotic. It's nothing, it wasn't a rocket, it wasn't ISS, it wasn't like a space lab or...
Well, it doesn't sound like a satellite to me, a cigar, like, rotating around
there's
the
no
area.
antennae either. There's nothing, no, like, telemetry or sensor-looking stuff. It's
Doesn't,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is wild. And then also now we have the lucky hindsight, in 2026 of Commander David Fravor's experience of 2004, just a few years later, off the coast of San Diego, where he sees a Tic-Tac object, and they have, apparently radar. We've seen the FLIR imaging, the thermal imaging of this thing. It's for everyone to see. The Pentagon has verified that that's real.
All four of us, because we were in F-18Fs, so we had pilots and Wizzo in the back seat, looked down saw a white Tic-Tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping pong ball. It rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. Our wingmen, roughly 8,000 feet above us, lost contact also.
And then you have a lot of other witnesses. You have his co-pilot, you have another plane and two pilots in that plane. You have, a whole lot. You have obviously radar. Some guys on the ship, exactly. So are you the first... I believe there's some other Tic-Tac and cigar, like there's, I think there are Air Force documents from the late 40s that describe flying butane tanks. I don't know if you know about this.
No, I haven't heard it described like that.
David Grush, famous UFO whistleblower, has talked about this. And then in Robert Hastings' great book, UFOs and Nukes, which talks about UFOs showing up at nuclear installations all over the world, including in the UK, actually at Rendlesham Forest in 1980, really famous case. He talks about Tic-Tacs or cigar-shaped objects often being sort of like a mothership and saucers flying out of the Tic-Tacs.
Yeah, I think that was it Maelstrom, AFB in America as well. Similar thing happened. Yeah, definitely a mothership kind of configuration.
Yeah, no, a ton has happened at Malmstrom, actually. So it's definitely likely that in certain cases, some sort of because a Tic-Tac or cigar is one of the most common descriptions people have. There's a case we were just talking earlier. Thank you, James Fox, great documentarian, for the intro to Gary. It's a great guy. And we were saying that he sort of single-handedly resuscitated this obscure Brazilian UFO crash in 1996, the Varginha case. And there's a guy, Carlos de Souza, who's a ultralight pilot, geography teacher, who literally saw the crash. And he felt the material, just like in Roswell with Jesse Marcel. He feels the material, and it feels like memory metal.
I could see quite a few pieces of debris on the ground, and I picked them up, and it was kind of curved. And then I was surprised to see how light it was. So I said, I'll keep it. And so I crunched it up. And so I made this kind of movement, to put it in my pocket. And what happened was this foil or this sheet regained its shape. So I thought, what is this? I was completely floored.
Yeah, it sprung back into its original shape. And guess what the shape of the craft was that he saw that crash?
Right, so...
Cigar, Tic-Tac, yeah. So...
Yeah, lots of synchronicities there.
What was your first instinct when you saw it? How did you feel? And what did you think? Often I think like, if you're taking like a multiple choice test, it's like your first instinct's often right, and then you second guess yourself. So did you have like an on the spot interpretation?
I'm not an aeronautics expert or a space vehicle expert, but to me, I watched space stuff with interest since I was a kid, and it wasn't your normal space stuff. So I knew that. But there wasn't, I didn't know if it was extraterrestrial. I still don't, obviously. It could be something man-made. But it was definitely something secret because it was nothing like we already have up there.
Dan, did you have any sort of like instinct of, the obvious question is like, is it ours or is it theirs?
Yeah,
That's
the big distinction. Well, I think because of Donna Hare's story, my instinct was that, it was alien, because that's what she described. She described unknown things in high-res NASA satellite imagery that they had to airbrush out because, I don't know, maybe they thought it would panic the public or they had no explanation for it.
And what does she say as far as why they airbrushed it out and didn't just admit, we're surrounded by these cool exotic objects?
Yeah, we shared a few emails. She's passed now, unfortunately, God rest her soul. And we had one, I think it was like 2.5 hour, 3 hour phone conversation. And she thinks, just like a lot of us do, that a lot has been hidden. It's been hidden for reasons of control. But it's weird when you try and extrapolate from this, you think, well, wouldn't you use technology like that in a war if you had that? Would you use it openly to your own advantage? So to me, that tells me that it's still unknown, even to the people with the highest authority on that subject.
I think that's right. If it's not well known and it's flying with impunity over our nuclear sites and in sensitive airspace and in space next to, our recon satellites and stuff, you would be extremely embarrassed you wouldn't be able to admit, but if you did know what was going on, you would just tell the public, we not only do we know what's going on, but then you try to signal that you know what's going on and you've like reverse engineered it because you'd want to, kind of soften, the enemy sort of thing. And so I actually think some of modern disclosure might be, intel tactics to try to like say that we know more than we do, but also recruit on the topic because like actually they don't really know what's going on.
I think you're absolutely right. Embarrassment is a huge factor. Even just my hacking was an embarrassment. So if they're embarrassed about something like that, can you imagine? I mean, it's just indeterminable. It's hugely different. And also fear, because why, are they here? What are they doing? Why are they interested in nuclear missiles? Is it for protection of us? Is it that we destabilize some kind of interdimensional thing? Or because we're fucking with atoms.
Did you get the sense? Yeah, right. We're doing a lot. Genetics, atoms, biowarfare. So when you saw this thing, did you get the sense that it was moving in a predictable orbit? I mean, it's a static image, so you have no way of knowing. But did you get the sense that it was like moving in an orbit, or that it was like just kind of maneuvering around? Or
well, I've seen photos of LEO, low Earth orbit stuff, and this looked to be maybe. I mean, I have no idea of the scale of this thing, but with the hemisphere. It was way beyond low Earth orbit.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean,
there's actually a WikiLeaks email with John Podesta on it that's been deleted from the internet. But still, if you go on the Wayback Machine, I think there's some like Reddit forums that discuss this. Definitely a real email. And he is talking with kind of a contractor from some aerospace corporation, I think in California. And he mentions the contractor, I think the guy's name is Bob Fish, said they're having lunch together. And this is him recalling it in the email. And Fish says, we spotted some fast walkers today. Ooh. And they were, I think this was in specific reference to the DSP, the Defense Support Program, which I think is this very deep geostationary kind of recon thing that the Air Force does. This was the Air Force at the time because now Space Force would do it, post 2019. But I wonder if you saw a fast walker, because also if you try to FOIA fast walkers, which John Greenwald did, the Space Force gets back and says, clearly there are some records, but we can't talk about them. Yeah.
Wasn't there a CIA FOIA to do with fast walkers as well?
Maybe.
No.
Yeah, it might be the CIA, actually. It might not even be Space Force. I might be getting that wrong, but yeah. Interesting. But I guess one question would be like, was it lateral to the Earth? Like, was it moving, lateral to the Earth? Because I think it wouldn't make sense to me if it was like vertical to the Earth. Like if the butt was facing the Earth, I'd be like, that doesn't feel like an orbit. Like it's in a predictable orbit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely.
It was lateral.
90 to the Earth. Yeah.
It was at 90.
Yeah. So that, it's horizontal. And
The horizontal.
back, so I wasn't seeing it end on. So you're right, it was in a position to be rotating around.
Possibly in
or
orbit.
just traveling past.
Or just traveling past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't like going directly at the Earth. It was like moving laterally somewhat. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting. Any other detail? I guess you don't know color, right? Because it's
silvery white. I mean, it was I was in like, I think 2-bit color.
Okay.
Or maybe 4-bit. But yeah, it was very kind of blocky but it was definitely white, silvery white. Yeah.
And did you see any sort of, I guess, I don't know how you'd see a shadow, but like, did you see any sort of?
No, because this is,
so far out from Earth.
Yeah. Interesting.
What do you think photographed it?
Very good question. Yeah. Now, so this takes me to, I referenced the Disclosure Project a lot because that was the root of a lot of my locations and research at the time. And one of their witnesses, I forget his name, he was DIA, and he got a lot of the information to do with the satellites. And he was the one that said most of these satellites are actually pointed outwards, and they're not like low Earth orbit communication satellites. So I assume if you've got very far out satellites looking outwards, you can also rotate them.
Yeah.
And look inwards. So that's the only thing I could think of.
Okay, so that is fascinating. You see that. How are you feeling when you see that?
Oh, man. I was ready to inform the press, tell the world, oh, my God, look, it's true. And NASA knows, and NASA has known for ages. And Donna Hare was right. But then, boom, disconnected.
As it's loading.
Yeah.
So it hasn't even fully loaded.
I saw like just under the bottom half of the ship.
Yeah.
And then disconnect.
And you have no reason to lie about this. You've never made any money off of this, right? And if anything, you were kind of put on a witch trial. Like there's sort of this witch hunt for like 20 years where this like, blanket extradition was attempted to be applied to you where they wanted to put you in prison for 60 years. So
70. Yeah.
For 70 years.
Mr. McKinnon is accused of serious crimes.
On his visit to the White House, David Cameron spoke to President Obama about the case, and both agreed they could find an appropriate solution.
We talked about the case of computer hacker Gary McKinnon, on which the Prime Minister has expressed very clear views. You said you would work together to find a solution, so have you found one?
Well, on Mr. McKinnon, we have proceeded through all the processes required under our extradition agreements. It is now in the hands of the British legal system. We have confidence in the British legal system coming to a just conclusion, and so we await resolution and will be respectful of that process.
Well, we had talks, and they said, look, if we just come along, don't fight it. You do between 8 and 20. Like, that's a good deal. Like, no, thank you. I'll fight it. And that was actually horrible. It was very depressing. I found out my own government, because governments are made up of individuals, and individuals have ties to other individuals in the DOJ and the CPS. Some of them wanted me gone too. Just as a favor to the US, not because of anything to do with right or wrong or truth or justice, just as a favor, a political pawn. So that was awful, but not just for me, my family, your mom and dad. And it's like,
Weren't there some allegations of a meeting that was had at the American embassy out here where it was like, we want his head or something? Like it was very extreme language used.
Yeah, Ed Gibson, who was attaché to the US embassy in London at the time, met with my lawyer, and he said, we want to see him fry. Electric chair reference.
Jesus Christ.
When she told me that, Karen, amazing lawyer, stuck with us all through this and fought and fought and fought. Yeah, we already knew they played dirty. Because, people have to realize, politics isn't about people being safe and well looked after. It's about the state, the furtherance of the state and its objectives, and the protection of your state to foreign states. So...
that is definitely the lay of the land, as is national security. And, I just find it interesting that, okay, you have guys like Snowden and Assange where wherever you lie with them, which like whether you think they're courageous and ideological in a way that really, exposed all sorts of, issues with the intel world and mass surveillance and stuff. Or whether you think they put Americans abroad in danger or whatever, which I think there is some nuance there. Like, I do think some people in the intel world who talk about this say, well, there's some real bad effects around this stuff.
But in Assange's defense, he had lots of phone calls before releasing that information. So he actually agreed it with people in the State Department.
I didn't know that. Well, there you go. Yeah. But I was just getting to the point of whatever you think of those cases, maybe there's some, more gray area or debate to be had or whatever. In your case, you're smoking weed in your girlfriend's aunt's little flat and it's 4 a.m. and you're just a dude who's interested in UFOs since you were a child and you want to figure it out. Yeah. And so it's just to me, if it's the U.S., get your shit together. That should be you should be, it's almost like they might have lashed out so much at you because they were embarrassed. I mean, that you literally it's on you. It's not on this poor English citizen who has no clearly I don't think you're particularly ideologically set in destroying America, I've
been there. I loved it. Chicago.
Evanston. Yeah. So anyway, we'll get to that kind of more meta conversation, but you also found some other pretty crazy things while you were searching in your girlfriend's aunt's flat. And so, what else did you find besides this Tic-Tac?
I think I was on a Navy system at the time. I can't remember, cloud of weed, etc. But there was a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, and it was called, because I was saying earlier about my search terms, it was UFOs, ET, terrestrial, anything spacecraft, anything I could think of, which probably wouldn't be in the title of the document. But this spreadsheet was titled Non-Terrestrial Officers. So, not on the Earth, which isn't necessarily alien. It could just mean space-based Marines or, secret Space Force. And that was incredible. It had ship names. It had materiel, the military spelling, not materiel. And it was transfers of weird chemicals like molybdenum and other weird things that are hard to pronounce. Ship-to-ship transfers and fleet-to-fleet transfers. And at the time, I looked up the ship names, thinking U.S. Navy, must be boats. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
What do you remember the names of the people?
No, I don't remember any of the names of the people, but there were long lists. I think it was just initial surname. I don't think there were first names. And the ship names, I was expecting USS Lincoln or Navy ships, but there was none of that. And it wasn't Google at the time. I think it was Alta Vista, was the biggest search engine at the time. And none of it was seagoing vessels.
So you see a list of non-terrestrial officers, and then you also see chemicals. What are the names of these chemicals?
Yeah. Molybdenum, barium, something was in there. They were very exotic. So what does that imply?
Do you remember the exact? So what is molybdenum? Have you looked up what the uses are of this?
Yeah, I remember molybdenum. I can't even say it now. Molybdenum. They're very exotic. They're used in magnetics. Lots of very kind of exotic industrial processes. A lot to do with metal hardening, if I remember rightly, like metallurgy. You make an alloy and it makes it stronger than the original two components. So again, that time now, years later, with the research you've done, the people you've interviewed, it's all making more sense, especially when we come to the biofield brown stuff and dielectrics. And,
yeah, we'll get to that.
And nano deposition of thin layer materials.
Yes, yeah, thinly layered, thinner than a human hair or whatever, micron layered.
Yeah.
This one sample is engineered in layers thinner than microns through a process unknown on Earth and for a purpose we can only guess.
Multi-layered bismuth and magnesium sample, bismuth layers less than a human hair, supposedly picked up in the crash retrieval of an advanced aerospace vehicle. Nowhere could we find any evidence that anybody ever made one of these.
Okay, This is fascinating, though. So you see a list of how many non-terrestrial officers?
Oh, man. So my screen at the time was the old, like 800 by 600 monitors. I think I might have had 1024 by 768 resolution at the time. So your typical Excel spreadsheet, without zooming in, when you just load it up, was probably 24 lines. And I think there was about 1.5 or 2 pages. So maybe like 30, 40 names.
You don't remember any of the last names?
No. Sorry.
You're killing me.
You're not kidding me.
You gotta give us a little breadcrumb.
Yeah, this is one of the main criticisms of me. Why didn't you take a bloody screenshot? Just alt print screen, alt print. But I downloaded that Excel spreadsheet. And when I got arrested, all my data was taken to ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence. So they still have my hard drives. I've tried to get them back for years, and they said, no, it's still an ongoing investigation. You can't touch it.
Office of Naval Intelligence is the oldest intelligence agency in the U.S. I think it's 1882, and it's often deeply implicated in UFOs. 1882. So the National Security Act, which created the CIA, was 1947. And, and then you had the OSS before that, which was kind of this wartime foreign intelligence effort. Yeah. But, Office of Naval Intelligence well predates all of that. And you had Thomas Townsend Brown doing a lot of spooky science work for the Navy.
Yeah.
And, and then you have this guy, Harold Malmgren, who kind of ended up giving me kind of turned into kind of a deathbed confession at the end of his life. And it was wild. I mean, he was like, the Office of Naval Intelligence knows the most about this issue. And once you go in that door, the door shuts and you can't get let out.
But he said, one other thing. Naval Intelligence are going to be around asking you questions about your study. They really got curious, and if they talk to you for any length of time, they'll say, holy shit, you really know a lot. They're going to offer you special access. That's how they operate. I said, what does that mean? They'll open the doors, you'll have full entry, the doors will shut, and there will be no exit the rest of your life. That is a closed system.
And he kind of implied that they approached him in certain cases, and because of the fact that it was this closed system, he didn't want to engage.
Wow.
So, very interesting. So they end up with your stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were, when the British police, at the time it was the NHTCU, National High Tech Crime Unit in the UK. At first they said to me, oh, you'll get 6 months. It's the Computer Misuse Act, 1995 in Britain. 6 months, community service, no time. And then they went to America and visited ONI and other top brass. And when they came back, the tone had totally changed. They were just really serious. Which of course eventually turned into facing 70 years in prison. So it was a huge, like using a hammer to crack a nut. It was, David and Goliath, that whole thing. Yeah.
So wild.
Yeah, well, it's usually, like you said earlier, I was just a guy, normal guy, interested in UFOs, happened to have some IT skills, a little bit of hacking, blank passwords, nothing genius level. And then next thing you know, boom, it just blows up.
Try to make an example of you. So when you think about those chemicals, and we'll get into our mutual interest in Thomas Townsend Brown and anti-gravity experiments. So you think that they could have been used to create special alloys or what you might call metamaterials in UFO world, which allow for greater thrust in these anti-gravity experiments? Like, one thing that is true about the Byfield-Brown effect and this anti-gravity experiment is that if you use an insulator in the middle that is considered a high K dielectric, which means it stores and discharges easily a lot of electromagnetism, a lot of electricity. It stores electric fields in it specifically. The thrust you see in the experiment is much greater from the negative electrode to the positive electrode. So do you think that, I guess barium is actually in Townsend Brown's documents? Like, he talks about it all the time.
Titanate, strontium titanate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then what was the other? I can never pronounce it. Molybdenum. And you looked into that, and that's for like creating alloys.
Yeah, I think it's a strengthening alloy. It's been a long time since I looked into it, but I think that's what it was. It was like a strengthening alloy.
Any other chemicals?
It might have even had a shielding. Not gravitational shielding, but like radiation shielding or some kind. I think maybe similar to lead, but I'm not a physicist, so don't quote me.
But it's super interesting if it's used on like current space vehicles. Like people should go out and look that up, because if it is,
Yeah.
you know, that might be an interesting
Yeah,
lead.
do some patent searches.
Yeah. Any other chemicals?
Molybdenum, barium, strontium.
Strontium.
Yeah, strontium.
And strontium is also mentioned in Brown's stuff, I believe, or
I can't remember any others.
okay. But isn't strontium, I believe, is one of Gary Nolan's pieces that he has at the Stanford lab that he thinks might be UFO metamaterials that come from crashes.
Yeah.
I believe has strontium in it.
Yeah, it's a good dielectric. I forget its K constant, but I know it's high.
So it's also a high K dielectric.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So you have a list of non-terrestrial officers.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
And then what does the fleet-to-fleet thing mean?
This was fleet-to-fleet transfers, because it was one spreadsheet, but it had tabs. So there was the officers' names, there was ship names, and there was a material transfer.
Do you remember the ship names?
No.
Okay. But what when you're looking at this, what is your instinct as to like, because there are all sorts of wild interpretations people have, and people make up the secret space program, Solar Warden stuff. What was you're in the moment, what are you thinking when you see this?
Well, that's exactly where I was. Imagine you were me, UFO guy, quite an active interest, and then finding this. And so obviously that's where my first thoughts go. So I'm thinking, non-terrestrial officers, that's the baseline for the whole document. So they're not on Earth, but I was thinking, well, it's probably people. They're not non-terrestrial because they're not human. They're non-terrestrial because it's non-Earth based, so it's out in space. So Space Force was my first thought. It's got to be a Space Force. Obviously secret. And then with the chemicals and stuff, and the ship names, and fleet-to-fleet transfers, so there's more than one ship, and then exotic materials. And so, it's kind of 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's to do with my mindset. That's what I was looking for. So that's how I interpreted.
Well, you know what I would do if I was Office of Naval Intelligence and I hated Gary McKinnon? You know what I would do? I'd make up some BS secret space program, call it Solar Warden, send people down the wrong trail, when actually I do have real, deep space fleets and transfers of these. So,
and Solar Warden did come after me. So
it did. Yeah. But like, I'm still trying to get to what do you think the fleet-to-fleet transfer of what? Of people?
I think the
chemical?
materials. Because first you had the people, then you had the ships, then you had the chemicals.
Okay.
Metal elements.
Okay. And do we think that the material is being transferred between don't think that the material is being transferred between extraterrestrials and humans, do we? Or do we think the material is being transferred between humans?
I think, ship to ship. So I guess maybe this was kind of like a logistics train.
Like a supply chain in space or something?
Yeah. Yeah, just a basic, because the Army's all about, or the Navy or whoever, is all about logistics.
Right. And a lot of these materials, if they are layered extremely thinly, and you have kind of atomic layer deposition style stuff, we know that manufacturing in space and in zero-G environments allows you. So a lot of these materials, they go, it looks like it was built in zero-G. Like, this is so crazy.
No faults.
So like maybe they built it in zero-G and then they're like conflating it with the UFO stuff, which actually just shows up around nukes and in other contexts or whatever. But like they might have built it in zero-G.
Yeah, that's the Occam's razor explanation, isn't it? That's the simplest.
Okay, so there's like a space supply chain where humans are manufacturing these exotic materials in space that you literally couldn't make.
Physically impossible on Earth.
On Earth, yes.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I don't think, has anybody ever explicitly tied together your thing like this, like we're doing now?
No, this is fresh and unique.
I love this. This is fascinating because that makes sense. That makes sense. Like the other stuff doesn't make sense. I mean, sending people 20 and back through the sun into a portal, or maybe that's possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
super soldiers on Mars. No.
Yeah, super soldiers on Mars. We need more evidence. I'll entertain, whatever, but you need evidence.
Yeah.
You can't just
yeah. I'm open to all stories.
Yeah. But this is fascinating. Okay, so it's like a space supply chain logistics. It's like a space factory, essentially, where they're creating these metamaterials that you can't make on Earth, and you need deep space to create them.
Yeah.
And then so the non-terrestrial officers would just be humans overseeing this supply chain, this space supply chain.
This is really good because I never even saw it in that way before.
Oh, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
And what's ironic is they're probably making space travel that much easier by creating these high dielectrics, which involve greater thrust in the Byfield-Brown effect.
Yeah.
So they're like making their own program more powerful.
Yeah.
With
to fit.
This is fascinating.
Wow.
Wow. All right.
I like that. I like discovery as we go.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? But that makes...
Yeah, it's all speculation.
It is speculation, but the idea that we have people in deep space, or we have literal alien, Men in Black style, aliens walking among us, and then we put Navy suits on them, commander suits on them, and they're like, you're a non-terrestrial officer or whatever. That makes less sense. Both of those make less sense.
Just don't look at his huge almond-shaped eyes.
Yeah. He'll crawl out of his skin suit occasionally, but it's like that we're stuck between those two options, like that, or it's like aliens in military garb, or literally humans that we've sent into super deep space or whatever.
I've never believed in any of the stories of alien contact with governments and stuff like that. I think it's just outlandish.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of that stuff is pretty ridiculous. It feels like passage material that is meant to send people down the wrong trail or something. Yeah, at least it doesn't feel like there's a ton of good evidence. I do think there are a lot of weird abduction cases where people experience things, and have you ever had anything like that, or?
I had one very strange experience that I can't explain to this day. It was back in 2006. My girlfriend and I are in what we call a bedsit in the UK, tiny flat, on the first floor, not the ground floor. And we'd gone to bed, we'd gone to sleep, and I was suddenly woken up by a really sharp pain in my left heel. And it felt like 2 or 3 a.m. Felt like I was in deep sleep. It had been a few hours. I'm like, what the hell's that? And I kind of leaned forward to check it out, like something had bitten me. Then immediately I just went, oh, I was asleep again. In the morning, I woke up, and weirdly, I don't know why, I'd gone to bed with my socks on, or at least one sock on. And then I remembered what had happened during the night, and I pulled the sock off, and in my left heel, there were 2 perfectly circular holes, both about 5 millimeters in diameter, and one still had a flap of skin hanging off it, like a hole punch used for paper, but about this far apart.
What?
I know. And I thought, what the hell? I'm on the first floor. I was trying to think of every possible conventional explanation. Was it a rat with perfectly symmetrical 5 millimeter teeth had come to my bed and bit me in the night? But I'm on the first floor, not the ground floor where rodents could be. No explanation whatsoever. I can't say much more than that. But I did, later as I got more into electronics and electromagnetics, I did scans and stuff. And
did anything come up?
Couldn't find anything wrong. But a few years later, I found out, because this is something I'm always researching and looking for an answer, because I still haven't got one. There's a company, I don't know if it was VeriSign, there's some chipping, electronic chipping company. And their process was exactly like that.
No way.
Yeah, a double injection. And then years later, I've got 2 bumps that formed where those holes were and then moved around. And I still have those bumps.
What?
On my heel today.
Do you think a human did that? Do you think an alien did it?
I'm thinking some kind of government tracking.
Government tracking.
Which I feel ridiculous saying it.
Well, do you feel ridiculous saying it? Because you had a 20-year, prime ministers were negotiating with American presidents on your behalf. because the American government had it out for you.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I think for a normal person being like, they wanted to chip me or whatever, like that might be a little paranoid. But
Yeah.
I think in your case, I'm not so sure, man.
Yeah, but even so, I wasn't running away. I was on bail. Everything was safe. I was contained, as they would put it. But yeah, I just can't explain that. It's just weird as hell.
Interesting. And do you still have that in your foot?
Still have the bumps.
Can I see him?
Yeah. I hope no one's got any foot fetishes or the opposite.
Maybe you can start an OnlyFans after this.
All right. Striptease time. But you've not done this before.
It's time for everything.
This is wild.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this company, Veritas.
No, I think it was VeriSign or something.
VeriSign.
I might have. It definitely began with a V, but I can't remember.
And they do these little chip implants.
Yeah. So when I woke up with the holes, they were kind of round here in the corner, but now they've moved slightly. So one's there. It's a lesser.
Whoa.
And the other one's there.
The other one's big.
Yeah.
Like that's like very easy to spot.
Yeah, and that's the other one.
Okay.
I think that's shrunk over time, actually.
Yeah, it feels smaller.
Yeah.
Whoa. Weird. The company Gary is talking about here isn't called VeriSign. It's called VeriChip. And yes, it's done work in human microchipping. In fact, the company has produced a tiny RFID microchip about the size of a grain of rice that implants under the skin, transmits a unique ID when scanned, and links to a database with personal or medical information. This chip is essentially a permanent tracking and identification tool.
To think something so small can connect you to everything that matters.
When your life and all you love are on the line.
The chip was introduced to the market in 2002, just a few years before Gary's experience in 2005. And according to Gary, the company's double injection method would cause something that looks exactly like the two bumps on his foot. I'll let you decide if that's a coincidence or not. If you look a little deeper, VeriChip's corporate lineage runs through Applied Digital Solutions, and prospectus filings show that the implantable microchips themselves were ultimately sourced from a subsidiary of Raytheon.
What we do saves lives. It protects peace and democracy throughout the world.
Yes, that Raytheon, one of the largest defense contractors in the world, deeply embedded in military systems, missile guidance, radar, and classified electronics. By the end of the 2000s, VeriChip themselves had secured the rights to technology that would allow the chips to detect viruses from inside the body, including strains like H1N1. The proposal described an implant that could determine whether a virus was present, what kind it was, and how serious the threat might be. At that point, the device would no longer just be identifying a person. It would be monitoring their unique physiology and biomedical data. Completely dystopian, to say the least. And even more dystopian, knowing that this tracking technology was likely used in retaliation on an ordinary citizen like Gary McKinnon. So if that were surgically removed, what do you think you would find?
I don't know, maybe 2 lumps of unanalyzable material. I don't know. I think I didn't have so much good equipment back then, but now I have really good stuff for electromagnetic analysis, radio frequency analysis. And I'd rather do that first before having it removed.
You should do all that.
Yeah.
You should do it like tomorrow.
Okay. I'll ask my local doctor.
I'm just saying, you don't want the names to go missing like in the, non-terrestrial officers.
Right, yeah.
Like you want it, you get like do it now,
Get it
Yeah, figure it out.
Oh.
So I joke, we're in between your implant experience and then this possible space supply chain for anti-gravity materials, and I don't know where to go. My head's exploding.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything, just going back to the materials thing and the fleet-to-fleet transfer? It's just so fascinating. And it's fascinating that you're into Townsend Brown, too.
Oh, man.
It's like you have this, like, hermetic connection to this whole subject. Like, you were meant to, like, see that or something. Like what? Anything else as far as takeaways from that document? and interpreting it, because it was James Fox came out with the program, and he did this great piece on you. But I think a lot of people do take what you found and run with it, as far as just the people out there, like their interpretations of it when they see people discuss it.
Yeah.
So this is your interpretation that it's some sort of supply chain in space or something, or
Well, we stumbled on that together.
I guess. Yeah.
So yeah, I hadn't really connected it in that way that it was a supply chain. It just came to my mind while we were speaking. And in light of what we both know now, it does make sense in terms of potential propulsion, the materials that might be necessary for that as a dielectric, so it's pretty amazing.
No, it makes total sense. There was a company called Made in Space that tried to do this for a while. There's now a probably more promising company called Varda Space, which does this. It's like factories in space.
At the end of the day, you can think of the value proposition as this, is we can do special chemistry because we can essentially turn off gravity for the manufacturing engineer.
And then often commercial companies are doing things that have already been done in classified settings. And so the stuff that was done in classified settings might have been this, Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I think we have that are known, like 6 people in space, like 6 astronauts, like on, the ISS and on various space stations. I think the, Chinese space station, they have an astronaut or 2. So the idea that how many officers were on this list?
At least 40-ish.
40-ish. So maybe they're in space, or maybe they were also, and maybe they were in orbit, or maybe they were just managing this non-terrestrial, kind of atomic layer deposition process, or, materials manufacturing or something.
Yeah, I've always thought they weren't aliens. I thought this is bound to be, because it says non-terrestrial officers, not extraterrestrial. So in other words, they're on a fleet that isn't based in space, on Earth.
When we talk about a speculative secret space program, we should establish something clearly. There really was an uncontested, very real, and now declassified secret space program. The U.S. Air Force ran its own classified manned space effort alongside NASA's more public-facing ones. In the 1960s, while the world watched Saturn V rockets rise under the banner of Apollo, the Air Force was developing the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, a military space station designed for reconnaissance of America's enemies and other orbital operations. 17 military astronauts were selected. A modified Gemini capsule was built. Titan III rockets were assigned. Launches into polar orbit were planned from Vandenberg. And then, in June of 1969, exactly 1 month before the Apollo mission reached the moon for the first time, the Manned Orbiting Laboratory was canceled. Advances in automated spy satellites made human observers redundant. Vietnam was draining resources, the Apollo program was imminent, so the classified space program was folded. But in defense culture, cancellation does not necessarily mean disappearance. Programs are restructured, personnel are reassigned, infrastructure is absorbed into deeper compartments. So what happened to the military astronaut program? Where did the classified orbital expertise go? And what was really going on with the classified space program? In 1993, former Lockheed Skunk Works director Ben Rich was speaking at a UCLA alumni event. Rich had overseen programs like the U-2, the SR-71, and the F-117, stealth aircraft that had lived in total secrecy before becoming public knowledge. At the end of his presentation, according to multiple attendees, Rich's final slide showed a black disc-shaped craft flying into space. He closed with the famous words, "We now have the technology to take ET home." Was he just messing with the audience? Rich would end up dying just 2 years later, but towards the end of his life, he would privately say things that sounded very similar to this UCLA speech. Things about prodigious American space capabilities the public could barely dream of.
Just before Ben Rich passed away, when I was talking to him, he told me, this is at the end of a 45-minute conversation, he said, "Jim, we have things out in the desert," and he wasn't referring to Area 51. "We have things out in the desert that is 50 years beyond what you can comprehend." I can comprehend a hell of a lot. And he said, if you've seen movies like Star Trek or Star Wars, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort.
Ben Rich's son, Michael Rich, was the president and CEO of RAND Corporation for decades. RAND was the Santa Monica-based, federally funded research and development center evaluating the prospects of Project Orion, nuclear pulse propulsion craft that could theoretically carry very large crews, reach Mars or outer planets, and enable long-duration missions. Not coincidentally, RAND has also conducted comprehensive research on the non-engineering side of deep space travel, crew psychology and isolation, life support logistics, radiation hazards, resupply challenges, cost and national priorities. RAND Corporation also happened to be intensely interested in the gravity-manipulating deep space propulsion work of Townsend Brown, his work going dark after he showed them a demo in 1967. President Ronald Reagan may have also inadvertently left a hint around secret American space capabilities in his diary entry from June 11, 1985. Lunch was with 5 top space scientists. It was fascinating. Space truly is the last frontier, and some of the developments there in astronomy, etc., are like science fiction, except they are real. I learned that our shuttle capacity is such we could orbit 300 people. You read that right. Not one shuttle crew, not a single mission. 300 people in Earth's orbit, in space. If you ask your favorite AI conversation agent, it'll tell you that we only have 10 or so people in space today. But we somehow had the capacity for 300 in the 80s? In 2020, Haim Eshed, former head of Israel's Defense Ministry's Space Directorate, essentially the father of the Israeli space program, publicly claimed that American astronauts and alien representatives were operating on underground bases on Mars. These bizarre hints have stacked up over the decades, and maybe they are mirrored in one of the most famous fictional versions of a secret space force, Stargate. With visible cooperation from the US Air Force, the production of the show Stargate leaned on real-world military structures and culture. In fact, 2 sitting Air Force Chiefs of Staff, Michael E. Ryan and John P. Jumper, appeared on the show as themselves. These guys literally ran the Air Force and were showing up for cameos on this show. The lead actor on the show, Richard Dean Anderson, was later made an honorary brigadier general in recognition of what the Air Force described as the program's positive portrayal of the service. The show's central premise? A classified off-world program run by the Air Force from a hidden command facility.
Show it.
Of course, the military connection might have just been due to some fans among the Air Force staff. Or maybe it was just another tiny hint towards something really big going on in secret. Strange stories of a parallel space program are apocryphal, but they are more abundant than you might think. Like this stunning revelation shared with Ross Coulthart on Chris Ramsey's Area 52.
There was a conversation I had with someone who I trust, who got very emotional and described a friend of his dying on the moon.
Wow.
And
what do you make of that?
I didn't know what to make of it.
It's important to remember that the public didn't even know the NRO, or National Reconnaissance Office, existed for decades. The parallel classified Air Force astronaut program wasn't fully declassified until 2015. So is it so crazy to think we might have experimented with covert human spaceflight and exotic material supply chains since then? The benefits of building materials in space cannot be understated. Matter in space, because of its lower gravity environment, behaves in ways that are basically impossible on Earth. Without gravity, there's no convection, no settling, no buoyancy tearing materials apart as they form. Liquids stay perfectly mixed. Crystals grow with extraordinary purity. Optical fibers can be drawn with almost no internal flaws. potentially outperforming anything made on the ground. So it's also not that crazy to assume that we've experimented with this technology for extremely high-value metamaterials used at the highest levels of aerospace. Now, where would such a program be headquartered? NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston is not only where McKinnon found UFO-related images and spreadsheets. It's the NASA complex that specifically focuses on human spaceflight. The notorious line, "Houston, we have a problem," refers to mission control at Johnson Space Center in Houston. So if you were operating a manned spaceflight operation involving a materials supply chain, that's exactly where you'd put it. I should be clear too, like both of us aren't trying to fully pour cold water on UFO crashes. Like I think
no, not at all.
I think Roswell happened. I think that Virginia happened in 1996. So it's always yes and in the UFO world. Like it's always like all of the. But I think intentional conflations also are systematically done by the intelligence world, and it's important to be able to parse through all of these things.
Yeah. And of course, it's human nature to super associate stuff with something you want to be true. So we can all fall down that hole as well.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, I'm officially shocked. This is crazy. I mean, the Navy does do like the most exotic materials stuff as well. Like there's this place, Naval Surface Warfare Crane, that does this. Battelle Memorial Institute does a lot of exotic material stuff as well. And so, yeah, I do wonder if, some of this is human made. And then if you say it's of alien provenance, then it's this like perfect, kind of black box where like people can interpret it however they want. And
yeah, it's a great shield, isn't it? Good umbrella.
It is. And then the fact that, and what's wild is that like you're now experimenting with materials, like you literally have materials in mind that make the Byfield Brown effect. Like you're interested in these anti-gravity experiments that involve some of these chemicals and materials that you saw.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah. Well, it's since 2007. Since I first read about Byfield Brown.
How'd you read about it? How'd you come across it?
I don't remember precisely, but it was
because that's early.
Yeah, it was undoubtedly researching UFO stuff.
Yeah,
anti-gravity stuff specifically would have brought me to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what attracted me was the fact that you can do this in your home garage or shed or whatever. You don't have to be a scientist. You have to be a scientist to understand the mechanism, which no one as yet does. But you don't have to be a scientist to do it on the bench and try some experiments. Because a capacitor, 2 conductive plates, in between them sandwiched an insulator, a dielectric that stores electric charge. So, what's complicated about that? And if you read all the so-called research into the BB effect, none of it's exhaustive. None of it. It's all, I did 5 kilovolts at DC, I did 10 kilovolts at AC. Obviously, Bueller went very far. There are a few people that went far. Army Research Laboratory. But no one's done a huge battery of tests with a multitude of dielectrics, a multitude of different plates, the mass of the plates, not just the material. Is it AC? Is it DC? Do you use a sine wave? Do you use a ramp wave or a triangle wave or a sawtooth wave? Or how long's your pulse? What's your delay? There's so many, there's quite a few parameters compared to a lot of stuff, but for a home experimenter, it's doable within a few hundred hours, I think. And I've probably done about 60 hours all told. I've done thousands of hours of reading, but probably 60 hours experimentation.
Wow, wild. Oh, so you've done 60 hours of running the actual experiment?
Oh, no. Like research into materials. I did try. I mean, I started off with lifters. Triangular Baker foil, and that was, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's balsa wood and Baker foil. And there used to be a website called Blaze Labs.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some really well-informed guys there, ex-aerospace, that knew all the aerodynamic mass and stuff. And they said, just like Army Research Laboratory, they said there's no way that this battered, metal foil sheet, which isn't even perfectly smooth like an airplane wing, there's no way that aerodynamically that can be pushed just by ion flow. Just no way. ARL said it was like at least 10, 20% above what could be achieved by ion flow.
Which is exactly what Brown said. And so for the audience, Townsend Brown is this mid-century, very mysterious inventor who started with the Navy, then joined Martin Vega, which was, pre-Lockheed Martin merger, the year that Skunk Works formed, and then kind of popped up in all sorts of, three-letter agency contexts and was, shoulder to shoulder with elite American military brass, people like Curtis LeMay. It was just this very mysterious figure who consistently claimed that he would get these positive results in these anti-gravity experiments, or what he called electrogravitics. There's even a video of him popping champagne from the Bonson lab at the Institute of Field Physics in North Carolina, which we know is the CIA outpost studying anti-gravity and literally convening all of the best theoretical physicists on the question of gravity in 1957. And it was all sponsored by Wright Airfield, which is where all the UFO rumors come from. They were literally paying for this, for a lot of this research.
Connections.
Yeah, weird connections. And so if you take what he claimed about his own experiments at face value, you'd have this crazy update against, SpaceX and like chemical combustion. It would be this like total paradigm shifting thing. Yeah. It's not a small deal. It's a really big deal.
Yeah.
And the thing about Brown is we know for a fact that he was one of the #1 radar guys in the Navy. There's an FBI file from 1942 or 3 that basically says he knows more about radar than anybody in the Navy.
Whoa.
And that's number one. Number two, electrohydrodynamics, which is not electrogravitics. It's the manipulation of airflow with electric fields, which is how the tinfoil, balsa wood, DIY foilers work and fly. But it's also what made it into the B-2 stealth bomber. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I kind of have the receipts on that too. So like so you have these two things where he's like the best, like EHD, electrohydrodynamics and radar. Yeah. And then he's claiming that he could also merge electromagnetism and gravity, which is the holy grail of physics.
Unified theory.
And so it's like, okay, so like he's right on 2 out of the 3 things, but he's a total quack on the 3rd thing. Yeah. And there's so much smoke around it. Unlikely. And then now you have the lead electrostatic scientist at NASA who is the global authority on being able to tell you that this experiment is only attributable to conventional electrostatics. And he's saying that no, it works in a vacuum, so you can't do it with ionized air. Physics in its current form cannot explain this. And his own experiments, Charles Bueller, who you mentioned, are derivative of Townsend Brown's work. Yeah. And so like I think there is so much smoke. There's a Japanese experiment that you mentioned, the Musha paper.
Yeah, Musha Takeda.
And
maybe I forgot his name wrong.
They say that they get a successful result. In that case, I think they submerge the whole thing in transmission oil, which also you can't ionize transmission oil. Like, that's not going to work. Are they coordinating with these people in the U.S. for like, are they like some deep state thing in Japan? Like, I don't think so, It's like this global thing. So this is wild. So we were setting this up and, I was talking to you on the phone and you were like, yeah, I'm super into Townsend Brown. I was like, this is going to be the best interview ever.
Well, yeah, I mentioned I really enjoyed I call it your Byfield Brown special. I don't know if that's what you...
I'll take it. Yeah. Let's call it the Byfield Brown special. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, kudos to you for being into Townsend Brown in 2007 because The Man Who Mastered Gravity by Paul Shatskin was this great biography that only came out in like, I think around the pandemic. And he had this other version of it that wasn't really edited super neatly or concisely. I think that might have come out in like 2009 or something. And he kind of stepped away from the project. But 2007, like you're talking about Townsend Brown being on the dark corners of the web. Like you gotta like,
that's where I used to live.
It sounds like it. Yeah, man.
And wasn't Paul LaViolette who first introduced the idea of the B-2 using that?
Yeah, so here's where I think Paul LaViolette got wrong, because he wrote this great history of anti-gravity, and he talks about microwave beam propulsion alongside Townsend Brown's Byfield Brown effect, and he's a really brilliant guy. He had his own theory called subquantum kinetics.
Oh yeah, his whole
which was fascinating. And he seems like just a brilliant. I would have loved to have interviewed him. He died a few years ago, sadly.
He's dead.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
No way. I was in email contact with him. I thought up until 2 years ago, but obviously got that wrong. And we were going to I was going to start a podcast.
Oh.
And he was going to be my first interviewee.
Oh, dude, that would have been the best thing.
But he said he had hip problems. He was undergoing hip surgery or something. So oh man. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's a real bummer. And, but I think and it's an amazing book and everybody should read it. But I do think he says that the B-2 had like an anti-gravity drive. And I don't think that's correct. I
thought he just said the leading edge. It was like a capacitor, but
yes.
So the leading edge was one plate and the trailing edge was another plate. And
so I think he's right about that. But I think that just manipulates the airflow. Like that just makes the airflow
it's like
reduce the lift to drag ratio.
Yeah, it wasn't a full
drive. Or increase the lift to drag ratio. Sorry.
Yeah. So it made it slightly faster. But,
it makes it more aerodynamic and faster. Yeah. I mean, maybe there's some real electrogravitic thing happening, but there'd be no way to like fully say because it's happening not in a vacuum. So like maybe there is something actually happening there that is.
Yeah, it's top secret.
And it's it's top secret. But I also don't know why they would necessarily declassify the B-2 if it was using electrogravitics per se. I will say there is a guy named William Gunston who is the preeminent aerospace journalist in the UK, or was, and is part of like the Royal Air Society and has all these awards and stuff. And for I think it was like Air International magazine. He did like a history of, aero engine tech since World War II. And then he gets to Townsend Brown and he goes, with Townsend Brown, like, I will refrain from talking about, leading edges charged to millions of volts positive, followed by trailing edges charged to millions of volts negative, because I don't want to end up in the Tower of London. And then he says that. And then he caveats it a little bit more. So like, I don't know if that caveating is genuine unsuredness of what he's saying.
In the Tower of London, which for the audience was a place of torture.
Was a place of torture.
Does he mean professionally or like as a whole, like giving away secrets?
Or if he's literally saying these are state secrets.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if the caveats are like, I don't want, I really don't want to be implicated for having said this, so I'm going to sprinkle in some doubt or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
But So you are? Do you want to pull off one of these experiments, or?
Oh hell yeah! I'm planning it by April, the latest. I've been distracted for a while and had to do other things. I'm only doing these experiments in a 10 by 10 foot shed, and they're not expensive, but they consume a lot of time.
Yeah,
and I'm basically doing industrial processes in a garden shed. So it's a bit. The first thing I bought, because you have to heat this stuff to 1,000 degrees, the calcium copper titanate to 1,000 degrees, and then I had to buy a 10-ton hydraulic press. I bought a gas furnace, and then because of the geometry and stuff, that wasn't unusable. So then I bought an electric furnace, which is much smaller and easy to manipulate. This tiny disc.
So cool.
It's only 40 millimeters across. I'm starting off very small. So I've got to make that into what they call a green body, make that solid. I bought really high quality silver paste as the plates. But then after that, you have to think of when you've got these two plates at 30 kilovolts or more, you get arcing currents, you get sparks, basically. So I have to find a way to stop that. And my first thought was to have very small discs on top of the 40 millimeter diameter calcium copper titanate, CCTO. But there's other ways to do it as well. So I've got to figure out a path and then complete it, because I really want to see it float. I want to stand there in my shed, turn the on switch on, and see this thing rise.
That would be amazing. If you made something levitate, you would the haters would have nothing to say.
Yeah.
What do you say at that point? You say it's ionized.
Video's not real these days. It could be AI.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. Would you do this in a vacuum chamber?
Yeah, eventually. I do have one vacuum chamber. That's for my resin. It only goes down to like minus 99 MPa or something. But I mean, Gravitech has done it in a vacuum chamber. They used to contract for NASA.
Who's Gravitech?
Gravitech is under a different name now, but they've got, I can send you the videos. What's his name? Not Henrik something. I've had a few emails with him as well. Yeah, they've done it in a vacuum, a proper vacuum, like, minus hundreds of torr.
Shout out to Gravitech. I want to check them out. I've never heard of them.
He's got a different company now, but I've got his email. I'll send you.
Oh, please.
Yeah, get him on, man. He'd be glad to.
I'd love to.
And he now does stuff for satellites, I think, like private satellites.
Whoa.
Not using this. Actually, I don't even know enough to comment. But yeah, he's done it in a vacuum.
Interesting.
And it is less.
Why wouldn't he
effect.
pursue it more substantively after that? Sounds like he just went straight to satellite.
I think he wants to be commercial, make money, do well for himself, and probably maybe that's as far as he wants it to go. But it works in a vacuum. But also you have like Jean-Louis Naudin, the French kind of YouTube scientist, I want to call him, so I don't know his credentials for real. He's done it in vacuum tubes. He's isolated the electrode in vacuum tubes. But I don't know what the pressure was. So
so you're right. There is this whole global community of DIY independent creators, aerospace professionals who in their private life just want to pursue this, or UFO nuts or whatever outside of, whatever they're doing. And most of them say that there's a there there. There are very few people that say there aren't a there there. The ones that do, I believe there's, an Air Force, the guy, his last name is Talley, and he's an Air Force guy, and I think he consistently uses very low voltage and tries to explain it away. And I spoke to this one Navy scientist, and he was like, Talley's just a bad actor. Like, he's like brought on the scene. Like, he's like this guy in UFO world named Sean Kirkpatrick, who's the former Aero director, who's like brought on to dismiss. Yeah. So,
well, Tim Ventura, All Propulsion.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he had that guy on that did had similar effects with very low voltage, like 5 kV, 5 kilovolts.
I think it was Bueller, no? Or because Bueller thinks it's the electric.
It was.
So this is the NASA electrostatic fleet.
Because there was a previous Bueller in my old documentation for like pre-2000s.
Whoa.
Unless that was his dad, or maybe it was because was he like mid-50s now? Maybe it was him.
What in your old documentation?
Yeah, I've got documents with a Bueller, and I didn't think it was him, but maybe it is. We'll have to. We didn't do that doc swap. We said we'd do a doc swap.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. Do you have like a lot of compiled information about this sort of stuff? Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Huge zip file. And in terms of free energy, there's one thing I found the guy that discovered it. So Lenz's law stops the motor rotating because of, the counter electromagnetic force. If you look at the formula for that, the strong element of that is the inductance of the coil. And this guy found that if you increase the his name is Thane Hines, if you increase the inductance of the coil, then the rise time of the opposing magnetic field that slows the turning of the motor down when you're applying power to a load is delayed, just like delaying timing in a car engine. And he found that not only could he delay it enough to stop the CEMF, counter electromotive force, dragging, creating electromagnetic drag. When it's past a certain point, phase angle, it assisted the rotation.
Wow.
So your standard electric generator is a disc with magnets, and underneath it, coils. And he found that when so the magnet is spinning around, it gets to what they call TDC, top dead center above the coil. With his method, because it delays that opposing, because when the magnet, so let's say it's a north pole facing down, and it cuts into the coil, that creates a south pole in the coil that opposes the incoming movement of the magnet. And then when the magnet's moving out of the coil, it creates a north pole, which accelerates it out. And he found that when you do this stupidly simple but incredibly effective time delay, the CEMF rises in such a way it's late on the income, so the magnet gets pulled in, And it's early on the outgoing, so the magnet gets pushed out. So it accelerates the incoming and the outgoing. And he took it to such an extent that eventually there's no opposition at all. And you can actually reverse, you're not reversing Lenz's law, because that's an inaccurate physics statement, but you're reversing the effect.
In effect,
of Lenz's
you are.
law. Yeah. And I did a small experiment. I'll send you the video. I did the most simple magnetic motor you can. I had a cylinder-shaped magnet, which is diametrically magnetized. So it's not north on top, south on the bottom. Each curved half is the north and south poles. I had that on a vertical shaft, rotating, and I show it with a normal generator coil, which when you attach it to a load, the power input needed increases to support the load, and the rotation slows down. Well, when I put his coil on, which has higher inductance, when you tell that coil to power a load, the rotation speed increases and the input current goes down, the complete opposite of motor generator theory.
Whoa.
That's the one and only thing I've seen and been able to replicate that works in terms of free energy. And this guy is now, he's got contracts with Siemens, Philips with him. He's talking to China. It's about to blow up.
Whoa.
And I've been following him since about 2007 too on overunity.com, the first forum I saw him on.
What's his name?
Thane Hines.
Where's he based?
He's Canadian physicist. Yeah.
Dude, you are deep down the rabbit hole of alternative propulsion and energy.
You've got to interview this guy.
I would love to.
He's like your general kind of crazy mad genius. He's not so good at social interaction.
Yeah.
But he's got it, man.
It's typical of somebody who makes like real breakthroughs like that.
Yeah.
You know, for them to be not always like
I think he's got a lot on his mind.
I think he's got a lot on his mind as well.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. What do you think this chip in your foot, like, does it ever like burn or buzz or?
No. It sometimes glows. No.
So there's nothing, basically you've gotten no incremental information on it outside of.
Just a couple of lumps that have moved over time towards the inside of the arch of the foot.
Strange.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a sort of like any sort of Men in Black experience or experience with, you know, strange men in suits showing up at your place or?
No, but my lawyer had her office and her car robbed.
Really?
Which is obviously not Men in Black, has more earthly powers.
No,
nothing Men in Black.
Okay, so when you hacked in to all of these sensitive American military sites, how did you get caught and what happened next?
Oh man. Yeah, I got lazy, got egotistical, and thought, I can go anywhere I like and look at anything. And I started making direct connections instead of jumping through various IP addresses. So I was making direct connections to, you know, the target. And I was using like free AOL sign-up CDs. So I wasn't being at all, you know, like a professional hacker. I was just, I thought I could just do it. I thought, these guys don't even have passwords. They wouldn't even know I've been here. But yeah, eventually, obviously when that guy right-clicked the LAN icon and disconnected me, that was NASA. And they reported to BT, British Telecom, which is my internet service provider at the time, and said, who's this IP at this time? And they said it was, in fact, they didn't have my name at first. I don't know if my internet account was in my girlfriend's name or if we were using her aunt's internet or something. But the horrible thing was when the National High-Tech Crime Unit came to arrest me, the warrant was for the whole house. And they came early in the morning, arrested me, my girlfriend's aunt's daughter, who was only like 12 or something at the time. So it was quite a horrible experience for the extended family and all my fault. And
why have they arrested 12-year-old?
Well, just to question.
Sure.
Not arrest on the
detained.
Not to jail.
Yeah. That's still, it must have been traumatic for her.
Yeah. Because they didn't know who the person was. They knew it was someone at that address.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my ex-girlfriend's cousin, he was quite anti-authoritarian and quite alternative. And I think they thought it was him. Oh, it must be him. He's got purple hair. He must be the guy. Oh, so yeah. I'm laughing now, but it's horrible because it affected so many other people. You know, my stupid curiosity. But
James mentioned something about guys looking over you at your bed or something, like at night or something.
Oh no, that's probably when I was arrested, because I was arrested in my sleep.
Wait, so you were arrested in your sleep?
Yeah, the National High-Tech Crime Unit. I'd been up all night playing Galactic Civilizations 4, or some big space game, and probably smoking still as well, and gone to bed late, so I was asleep at 8 in the morning. My girlfriend was getting ready to go to work. Knock, knock, knock. She's in a dressing gown. They're patting her down and pushing her into a room. Then they come into my room. I'm in bed, and I've got this guy like, Gary McKinnon, I'm Jeff Donson from the National High-Tech Crime Unit. You're under arrest for computer misuse. So it's, yeah.
And then from that point onwards, the UK was like okay with more of kind of a slap on the wrist sort of thing, and then it was the US that was like, no, we need to extradite him now. And then what you mentioned, they changed the extradition laws to make it this sort of blanket thing that applied to you? Or?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was first arrested, the National High-Tech Crime Unit, who were the arresting body, said to me, you'll do 6 months inside, maybe community service, maybe no jail time. Because under UK law, all I did was unauthorized access. I didn't break anything or steal anything or make money or anything like that. And but then these officers went to America, to ONI, and I must say Office of Naval Intelligence, because there's another ONI. There's an intelligence, is there? I think investigation or something. But
I don't know.
Yeah. And when they came back, they had a very heavy tone, a completely different tone about them. They were very impressed by meeting with the top brass in Washington. And they say, this guy caused $5,000 of damage on every PC he was on, which is just stupid.
How do you damage the hardware if you just do this software hack that we're calling a hack, but you're using like off the shelf stuff?
Yeah, it's like PC Anywhere.
Yeah.
But I think what they call damage is the time it took them to take them offline, so the machines are unusable for a while, investigate them, so it's,
You know what? That feels like kind of white hat hacking to me, because you didn't actually end up using any of the files in a way to hurt the U.S. or their again, you can say what you will about Snowden or Assange or any of these guys. Like, there's nothing you did to like knock the U.S. down a leg as far as
not at all.
Their tactical ability to do things. So it's almost like a white hat hack, because the costs they incurred to take the stuff down and reset them, they would have needed to do anyways. That would have been, what if like a malicious person had penetrated all these servers?
Negative state actor.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So they're actually extremely lucky that you did what you did.
$5,000? Where are you buying your PCs from?
No, they should. I mean, you literally white hat hackers get paid. So I think they should pay you.
All right.
I'm just
please send the email.
Yeah. I'm serious. It's like, you didn't do anything showing malintent once you got the info. They got the info back, and then they reset, ideally, their computer networking and architecture in a way that, these sort of phishing attacks couldn't be done.
Yeah.
These are basic things that you're using.
Yeah.
So I think it's like insecure. It almost sounds like somebody in like middling bureaucracy who's trying to cover their ass. They're like, this took us all this. Well, you should have done it before.
In the first place.
Yeah. What are you doing? You're not doing your job.
Yeah.
If it was some super sophisticated quantum error correction that you had figured out in 2000, that would be one thing. That would be like, okay. Yeah. And then you used it in this sort of detrimental way to American national security.
I've decrypted NSA.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, I don't know, man. That feels like a kind of crazy. Okay, so then what happens to the extradition laws?
Oh, man. So, yeah, the original extradition law, which I think was 1989, was a good basic law. We accuse this British citizen of having committed a crime in or against America. We have this evidence, and it's a crime over here, and it's a crime over there, so we should have him in America to stand trial. Totally fair, totally reasonable. But then, I mean, this is the weird thing. In law, computer crime is a weird thing. It's a grey area because it's not physical. Where's your bum at the seat when you commit the crime? There's lots of questions that are legally intransigent, like how do you place this? So what happened was I was arrested in 2002 and in March, and then I was re-questioned by the NHTCU went to visit the DOJ in August, Then they came back. Then they re-interviewed me in November 2002. And that's when their tone had changed. Very serious. You're accused of harming military systems. Could be years in prison. And that's when, things really got serious for me. I thought, my God, this is just blown out of all proportion. But we were protected by the extradition law because there had to be evidence of malintent, etc. And when I did my police interview, I completely admitted to what I'd done because it was all on the hard drive. I said, yeah, it's all on the hard drive. I went there and I got this document, went to another place, got other documents. So I was open about it, thinking, 6 months, like they told me, I'll be fine. And they said community service, so I can do both. I'll be fine. Although I wouldn't have liked 6 months in prison. But when it came to November and then they threatened extradition, then on paper it was 70 years in jail. 70 years. It was like 7 counts, 10 years per count. And I just went crazy. I thought, this is absolutely mad. What are we going to do? And there was a lot of, the UFO community in America wanted me to stand trial in America. As like a martyr.
Right.
Yes, it'll be great. He'll come over, they'll open all the secrets and he'll make it after. But what America actually said, the DOJ said that I'd be tried under military order number 1, which is Guantanamo status. Totally secret. No media interview, no media cover, no family visits. Me in an orange suit with my red hair. Joking, sorry. But yes, it went really scary, like over the top, Kafka-esque.
Yeah.
As many people said.
Damn. Hey, you must have been, you must have felt horrible. You must have been like the world's out to get me, or the most powerful nation in the world, is out to get me.
Yeah.
And that must be a scary feeling.
Yeah. Well, it started in late 2002. And by 2008, because we lost so many court cases and hearings, I'd given up all hope. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to give my fucking life to a foreign jail.
Mm.
And I bought potassium chloride, one of the 3 chemicals in the lethal injection. And I thought, if I get that decision, I'm just going to not inject it. I looked up how many grams per kilogram of body weight, and I was just going to swallow it and have a heart attack and die.
Since I came into office, the sole issue on which I have been required to make a decision is whether Mr. McKinnon's extradition to the United States would breach his human rights. After careful consideration of all of the relevant material, I have concluded that Mr. McKinnon's extradition would give rise to such a high risk of him ending his life that a decision to extradite would be incompatible with Mr. McKinnon's human rights. I have therefore withdrawn the extradition order against Mr. McKinnon.
That was incredible. Theresa May. So yeah, it's heavy.
That's heavy, man. That's really intense. And I'm sorry it got to that place, because it's ridiculous. If you look at the fact pattern, it's just insane.
Yeah.
And again, I'm saying that some of these other whistleblower cases, there are nuances to them. I'm saying yours, I think it's an absolute witch. That's crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just crazy. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. I mean, that's just awful. I'm sorry on behalf of my country.
Well, you're not the government, Jesse. So
that's true.
I don't have to forgive you.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's just not a good representation. But
yeah. Well, America's a great country and the people are great. It's just there's been some very bad governance since World War II, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. No.
And on this side of the pond as well, the British as well.
Sure. Yeah. No, and it's crazy that you were, Gordon Brown, David Cameron, Theresa May, all of these UK prime ministers were thinking about you. You were this really important case because you said that the extradition law was changed to literally like right after you did what you did.
Yeah, this is one thing I didn't mention.
Yeah.
We saw a draft of the new extradition treaty through our lawyers, and it was written, a British extradition treaty with America was written in American English, which is kind of a clue as to who's calling the shots. And, American spelling in an English legal document. And also a lot of the phrases were almost verbatim taken from some of my charges. So I think it's not that there's anything special about me, but it was what I did. at that time, the American DoD systems were getting like 250,000 attacks, hacking attacks at the time. If you read the General Accounting Office documents at the time, and still to this day. So I think they needed to do something, and they needed to increase the punishment, and they needed a poster boy. So timing is everything, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because there had been big hackers before you, right? Like, what's the name of the guy who hacked into the DOE, Department of Energy, and like atomic labs? Matthew Bevan.
Yeah.
And so this was like an actual hack on really sensitive stuff by kind of a more professional hacker. Is that safe to say? Or
No,
also kind of was like a vigilante?
Yeah, no, I think he was more skilled than I was. He didn't just do blank password hacking. He found, weaknesses in protocols and stuff.
Okay.
So he was more advanced. But, and he was earlier. He was in the 90s.
And then what happened to him?
He was basically...
slap on the wrist.
He did go through some shit, don't get me wrong, Matthew, if you're listening. But yeah, he didn't face a long-term...
There were a few of these cases before you where I think in a certain case it was like 100,000 computers ended up with malware,
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, if you want to know who's the most successful hacker, it's not a person, it's a virus.
Yeah.
Like the love, what's it? I can't remember the name.
But I'm talking about specifically there's precedent for UK-based hackers hacking into US systems, which neither of us are suggesting anyone do. It's not you don't hack into, national security stuff. This is a lesson. But in those cases, they did worse stuff than you.
Yeah.
And they just got slaps on the wrist. And then you're this like UFO interested, you want to know if there's like free energy or whatever, like for your own edification.
Yeah.
Like not because you want to do some like, terrorist thing or like undermine, American supremacy in any way or whatever. And like they just come after you.
Yeah.
And so they changed
Which tells you, what's important to them. Is it someone like cleverly stealing money in a cyber fraud way, which a lot of people have done, or is it UFO truth? Is it?
Yeah, well, no, it might show that actually, hit a trigger point, like the like cigar-shaped Tic-Tac object, flying in deep space. That might be this really sensitive thing that they just really don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Then the space supply chain thing, I could see that. They don't want to talk about that either.
But as a counterpoint to that information was already out. Donna Hare's information was out. So it's kind of, if it's already out, why go so heavy on this guy?
As a counterpoint to that, like there's proof that you got into these sites. Donna Hare, it's always going to be this kind of like single sample size, N of one story told. And you can always be like, that person was crazy.
Yeah, good.
But like in your case, like, they have like there's a live arrest warrant out on you now, right?
Yeah.
You can't go to the U.S. now.
I'm on the Interpol red list.
You're on the Interpol reg list. That's crazy. I don't even think I knew that. Hopefully I'm good. But yeah, like with I think in your case, there's no arguing with the fact that you got into these sensitive sites. So the fact that you're saying you saw a Tic-Tac, in deep space, but above Earth. And then you saw these non-terrestrial, maybe 40 some odd officers, like, that's like that's like a little deeper,
Yeah. Yeah.
But like to the point that like you shouldn't be blamed. It's like you didn't sign something.
Yeah,
you didn't like sign up to like, you weren't like working at one of these places. You were like high in your
I'm trying to think how
girlfriend's
I would
aunt's.
manage that if I was Intel. I was like, how do we manage this guy? And then I think they were probably quite happy when I got diagnosed with Asperger's in 2008, 2009.
Why?
Okay, he's mentally ill. He's fine then.
Right.
Like a put away. I would put him in the mentally ill drawer.
Do you ever think like the chip is somehow either monitoring you A, or B, it's like feeding you ideas or anything? Yeah. You start glitching right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever think it has some sort of, I don't know.
No, my mind feels the same as it always has.
Okay.
But I do want to do some further scanning with my more modern up-to-date.
You should, yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I wish what was his name? The guy that used to scan implants? He's dead now.
Roger Lear.
Roger Lear.
Yeah.
I wish he was around and could come to the UK.
Yeah, he'd be the perfect guy.
Yeah.
I might know of somebody else. who can help you out. So
later.
Yeah, exactly.
Explain what's going on quickly.
I can't turn my phone off. Here, look. Yeah, let's document all of this. You can see my finger is on the power button and both. This is like a hard reset. My finger's on the power button and volume up and volume down at the same time.
And nothing.
Nothing.
That's never happened before.
Absolutely, it's never happened before. It's insane.
But you're with Gary McKinnon.
And I'm with Gary McKinnon, who has a live arrest warrant.
Famously said, "I didn't do it."
This was the, everything I'd hoped it would be. This conversation, it was so fun, and I really hope you pull off this Byfield Brown effect. I think it would be this beautiful kind of, I don't know, vindication. I'm not saying what you did was fine, but I think you were completely persecuted in this horrible way.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that, by the way, the UK rallied behind you, and you ended up, singing with, David Gilmour, the lead singer of the Pink Floyd, and like you have all these people. You're like kind of this people's champion.
Crosby, Stills and Nash, man, one of my favorite hippie bands from when I was young.
Wait, what Crosby, Stills and Nash?
Yeah,
they were like rallying behind you as well? Or?
Yeah, they did. They just like mentioned me in one song at one of their gigs, but thousands of people.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
so cool.
Seeing all these bands I'd love when I was little. I was like, God, it was crazy because you're really depressed, but you're seeing all your musical heroes.
Yeah,
vouching for you. Like,
but you're also didn't you sang with David Gilmour?
Yeah, and Chrissie Hynde and Bob Geldof. But I didn't actually only sang in the same studio at the same time with Chrissie Hynde. So I didn't get to meet David Gilmour or Bob Geldof, unfortunately.
Well, wild. Thank you, Theresa May, for making the right decision and, letting you go. And I think the U.S. should drop their arrest warrant. And
I think so, too, that I could go on holiday.
Yeah. So you can go and, go on a nice vacation. And hopefully next time I see you, it's in the States. And
yeah, that'd be fantastic.
It'd be great.
Thanks for a great interview, man.
Absolutely, Gary. No, it was an honor. It was a lot of fun. And hopefully, I think we made a little bit of progress here too, in terms of piecing some things together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, logistics, supply chain.
Exactly. Sweet. All right. Alchemist, did you enjoy that? If you want the full picture, head over to the American Alchemy magazine we just launched on Substack. That's where we deep dive into all sorts of crazy topics that we don't have time to fit into every video, with weekly articles exploring all of the strange, forgotten, and conspiratorial corners of space, history, and high weirdness. So join up today at our free or paid tiers on Substack. I am including the full link in the description of this video.